And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. It's cloudy outside with temperatures in the teens, and we have breezy conditions out of the north. And it's going to be another cold day today, but much nicer weather just around the corner. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our Ag Director Bridgette Readel. Good Friday afternoon, Bridgette. Almost the weekend. Almost.
It is almost the weekend. It was great to see some nice weather yesterday. I think the wind has died down significantly than when it was overnight and this morning. Also a positive. Seen a little bit of a dip in temperatures, but I think we're still on the right side of this thing considering we spent a couple weeks of pretty chilly weather. So glad to see that's improved.
Yeah, no doubt about it. In fact, we do have warmer weather coming our way, but boy, I'll tell you what, in the northeastern corner of the U.S., they have record cold weather as we head into the weekend while we will start to warm up. In fact, today, well, we're going to see steady temperatures in the teens, slowly falling as we head late in the day. If you look off to the north, there are clearing skies, so we will see a slow decrease in clouds as we head through the rest of the afternoon. Again, temperatures kind of remaining in the teens, steady to slowly falling with north winds about 10 to 20. Then tonight, we'll see lighter winds, clear skies, lows about 5 above or so. And winds turn to the southeast tomorrow. They're going to pick up about 15 to 25, and highs tomorrow into the upper 20s. And then we're in the mid to upper 30s on Sunday, looking pretty good. Clouds increase on Monday, and we'll see temperatures in the 30s. A little rain-snow mix possible late in the day, changing to snow Monday night. Not looking at a lot, inch or less out of that. And then temperatures next week in the 20s and 30s, above normal and quiet weather. But I do see a pattern change coming in here after mid-month. The LRC has been predicting that too, a couple of potential storm systems shortly after Valentine's Day through the end of the month. So we'll be keeping an eye on those. One of them looks to be about the 17th of the month or so. Looks like we're getting pretty good agreement on our medium range models that there could be a major storm system in the northern or central plains. It's going to be close enough, something we'll have to keep an eye on. Again, time frame on that 16th through the 18th of this month. So something to look forward to or not look forward to, I guess, one way or the other, whatever you look at. But Bridgette, I've got a question for you. So
Sure.
we've got somebody that's near and dear to us. I won't say who, won't mention anybody's name.
Addison.
It could be, but they just purchased. Now, what would you do, Bridgette, if you purchased something that you found out was, I'll just say it's a collector's item at this standpoint, and you could make a nearly $2,000 profit off it by selling it, knowing you could get another one? Would you sell it?
So I am well aware of the situation, and
Oh, okay.
as the radio mom of the group and the self-appointed financial advisor, sell it because you cannot always realize cash opportunities like that. The same reason why people sold soybeans this week, why silver, if you sold last week, probably Thursday before Friday's drop off,
Yep.
and now a slow rebound. These would be the smart things. Take advantage of those financial opportunities as soon as you can. Yes.
See, Edison, that's 2 yeses. I told it. I was the dad and told him the same thing.
Yeah,
I'm
but
like,
consider the following. I want it.
but you can get another one.
But I want it now.
Oh, wow. No. If you know you can get another one, you take the profit, like Bridgette said. Soybeans, silver. Look at the stock market today, record high.
I do my best to avoid the stock market.
Yeah. So sell. If you can make a $2,000 profit, absolutely.
2000 nothing. I'll call you later and we'll have a little discussion on negotiations 101. I bet I can get you 2,500.
I told him the same thing. Wait a couple hours. See, maybe you can get a little bit more. See, Bridgette and I are on the same page here, bud.
I will entertain offers on this object that I will not specify, but I'll entertain it.
Okay.
Well, for those listeners who would like to call Addison to give their vote, you're welcome too. And you can reach him on the JLA Insurance phone line. And like earlier this week, sometimes you just want to call and see how Addison's doing. You can. He's at 701-293-9000. That phone line is brought to us by Nate Thorsrud at JLA Crop Insurance. He's a farmer too, so he understands what you're going through to get ready for the crop insurance sign up in mid-March. If you want to see the rest of us, Addison always makes sure that the camera never is on him. So he's never appearing in our live stream, but he could. That live stream is brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Acres TV. In fact, our guest yesterday, who did a stunning job, Dean Brown with Alloway Equipment, he said, hey, where do I find that video? And I see he already became a follower of our WDAY Facebook page, and you can too. We take emails. Our inbox is sponsored by Superior Grain Equipment. We can indeed help protect your grain storage, drying, and handling solutions in a superior way. And you can go to superiourbins.com to find out. To reach us, Dean is weather@flagfamily.com. I'm ag@flagfamily.com. So lots of ways to reach us, lots of ways to pay attention, enjoy, have fun. Monday, we will be giving away a 3M safety package. We'll be doing another one of those, so you never know what might be in it. And here's why. We have this box of prize items, and we're randomly going to put some really cool stuff in there. And you can stop by and pick it up if you win that giveaway on Monday. Same thing as when we do Wednesday weather trivia, where we're giving away the personal bait-ups from Darter Plastics. In fact, our guest yesterday was so excited about his Darter Plastics bait-up, he was at the studio within 10 minutes to pick that thing up. There must have been a hot fishing trip that came in to get him someplace. So, again, congratulations to all those that win. We appreciate it. Yesterday, Doug got his bait up and was off to the lake, is my guess. So, much appreciated by him. So, a few things that are going on agriculturally. When we hear what's happening in the commodity markets, our commodity price is great. Well, they're not hitting highs, although we did see a bump up in the soybean market this week. But we know that input costs are really probably one of the most trying times for farmers. And when I say input costs, I'm talking about seed, fertilizer, machinery. Arkansas is our nation's largest rice producing state. They grow roughly half of the U.S. rice. This year, they are projecting to be under 1 million acres of production. That's the lowest acreage since 1983. The reason for these drops? Well, first of all, a supply and demand situation. There's been less reason for demand, but also farmers are not just not raising that crop, they're no longer farming. They are losing money in those markets at such a rapid pace that they're unable to keep farming. I have a farming friend in Arkansas. It was his best yield ever in 2025. He will still lose on average $300 an acre between his rice and his cotton. Losing. When you think about their equipment, it's incredibly specialized, much like sugar beets, and very expensive. And so because of that input cost, folks aren't able to balance out what needs to be done to be profitable for the year. Now, if we are seeing these bridge payments that farmers will be getting by the end of February that are coming from USDA, even with the bridge payments, a lot of the rice and cotton farmers feel like they still are not going to turn profit for the market year or for the calendar year 2025. So we're going to see where all of this leads. We have a supply and demand situation. We know that in South America, if they got the chance, they'd probably drop raising soybeans and move to rice production, which will further erode what we're doing here in the States. Well, we're going to see what that looks like. Additionally, we're going to talk about what's going on in the markets because today is Market Uncovered with Gregg Hanson. Hanson Agri-Commodities out of Minnesota is going to join us. I am very excited to hear what Gregg has to share when it comes to some of the market conditions for the week. And we have listener questions that I've got stacked up. We'll get through as many as we can and roll the rest over to next week because Gregg with Market Uncovered, he joins us every Friday at 1:20. We're looking forward to more after the American Ag Network's Livestock Report. We'll be back for Market Uncovered. It is time for Market Uncovered with Gregg Hanson, Hanson Agri Commodities. Okay, Gregg, busy week. I got a pile of questions, but President Trump was busy on X once again this week.
Yeah, we're always one tweet away from good news or bad news. Wednesday morning, it was a good one. Back in October, the livestock guys weren't very happy, but this one's a good one. You know, he said he had a good conversation with President Xi, and they talked about everything under the sun. But there was a half a sentence in that tweet that's caught everyone's attention, and that half sentence basically said that while they did talk about ag commodities, and that's plural, he did make a comment that it would be nice if they would bump up that bean purchase from 12 million to 20 million tons, and that the Chinese are considering it. So let's take it at face value. Do the Chinese need another 8 million tons of U.S. old crop soybeans? And my answer to that would be no. Brazil's $1 cheaper than us. The Chinese supply is pretty decent right now. I mean, they've got beans on hand. So I don't think they need old crop beans. If you told me new crop, yes, they're going to need to buy at least 8 million tons of new crop beans. If it was feed grains, there's not a lot of talk, but it does sound like there's some quality problems with the Chinese corn crop. They had some fusarium in their corn, and it's toxic, and the toxic levels are so high in some of the corn they can't feed it. So they will need to buy some feed grains. And that makes sense when you heard the rumblings a few weeks ago that they were kind of looking around for U.S. corn. They did buy Argentine feed wheat. So if it was feed grain, hey, 8 million tons of feed grains, that makes a ton of sense. We got corn, we got grain sorghum down south. You know, with the mountains of corn we have here, they have that with grain sorghum down in the plains. That all makes sense. But old crop beans, the economics, the logistics do not justify it. But the traders are trading it, and it's given us a gift to get some opportunities done on these bean markets.
Okay, this is pretty great. This ties right in with a headline I saw earlier. You know, this has been quite a gift, good opportunity for farmers. Now, one of the farmers listening, he said, how hard should we support this bean rally? New crop sales, how aggressive should we be? And what are your thoughts on re-owning some bushels on paper if we had to sell some early for cash flow, or did we already miss the boat?
Well, let's start with old crop.
Okay.
I think this is a gift. I think when it comes to old crop bean rally, this is a gift to get some pricings done. When you look at where we are futures-wise, and you look at what the world stocks to use numbers are like, this is the upper end of what I think the trading range should be. So, I mean, I think this is a gift to get old crop done. Now, new crop's a different question, and I think we maybe touched on it a little bit last week in that, you know, are you profitable here or not? If you're profitable here, what are you going to do about it? And and one of those answers could be making a sale. Now, what if you're not profitable? What if we're at a spot now where this new crop bean price just doesn't work? We're at 10.94 futures, you know. If that does not equate to profitability, you haven't planted that bean yet. There's people out here telling you should probably make a sale here, but I've always been of the opinion you can always do something different. You can always go and put wheat in instead, put corn in instead. You can become the landlord and rent your land out. Why would you sell at a loss before you've even planted that seed in the ground? Once you plant it, different conversation, you're committed. You will have a crop. A small loss is better than a big loss. But I equate it to if you're sitting down at a poker table and you got your stack of chips, and just before they deal out the first card, you go, you know what? Have this stack of chips. I'm going to lose anyway. You know, why would you do that? Why in the world would you make a sale that you know is a loss before you've even planted the crop? So that's just the way I look at things. And if you're profitable, yes, do something about it. If you're not, figure out where profit works, find a target, get it in.
Okay. Now, I had a listener who's not farming, but sent a message earlier this week, and the headline is U.S. soybean export sales on the low end of forecast. And we know that the discussions happened with China, et cetera. And so the question was, for this situation, if we see low soybean exports, his question was, how seriously does that affect us in the Dakotas and Minnesota? I said it can, but I also see currently I saw more corn seed sales happening. and they'd probably be taking more acres. Do you, Greg, think that there's going to be a switch back to more soybeans versus what we've been seeing for corn seed being sold? Do you think we're probably going to flatten out on the acres and have similar acreage, or is corn still going to have the higher acres going into spring? That's a lot for your crystal ball to sense.
Well, my answer today might be different than it would have been on Tuesday. On Tuesday, it does feel like northern Minnesota, the Dakotas, because of the big crop, because we've had this trade war with China, all of our beans need to go to China for the most part, or all the excess. I mean, we can only crush so much. It felt like because of the big corn yields, we were going to be adding corn acres. Did we change that in the last 3 days? We've rallied the bean market up to where maybe there is some profitability. I mean, we've definitely been seeing new bean sales. I mean, where old crop beans were $3 higher today, new crop was down a nickel. People are selling beans. So there's obviously somebody selling some new crop beans. Are we maybe not going to get quite as much of a shift from corn into soybeans? The other thing to consider also with this whole, it's the month of February, the crop insurance values are getting calculated every day. And so now we've had 3 days in a row where, I mean, if this bean market's artificially too high because of the tweet, did we get 3 bonus days of pricing when it comes to that overall average? So is that going to help add some acres? That's the big question. We won't get that acre number for 8 weeks. And so for the next 8 weeks, that's the talking point, is where are these acres going to be at? My bias was before the last 3 days, probably I was thinking 84, maybe 85 million acres of corn, which is down some, but it's where's the acres at? And I think a lot of the corn on corn acres we're going to see are more fringe areas, not necessarily heart of the corn belt. So it's going to be Dakotas, Kansas. It's not going to be Iowa. I mean, Iowa's not talking about any corn on corn with the disease they had. So it's not your main driving big yielding areas. It's the fringe, and those tend to be a little bit lower yielding anyway. But up here in our area, it does feel, before this rally, at least last 3 days, probably more corn than we would have anticipated from some corn on corn, or maybe moving out of wheat into corn.
Absolutely. I think we're going to continue to see maybe a slightly downward trend on wheat acres overall, but there's still room for some slippage. And the reason I say people do that is we get into March and the weather turns really nice. Well, this field is ready for wheat, but it's not ready for corn. What if I plant a little wheat? What if I plant a little more? Oh man, I'm still not ready to plant corn, but I might plant a little bit of wheat. And we see that incremental creep up in wheat acres. And last question from a listener: will there be a summer rally for corn? Because often the summer price high occurs when we're wrapping up spring planting and fretting over how our crop is going to look throughout the summer weather forecast. Any insight?
Well, I mean, if they know that answer, I'd like to know it. Let's say this. Last year was the first time in 25 years where we did not take out the January highs.
Okay.
So, I mean, we really never had a rally. Typically you don't get 2 years in a row that are the same. So my bias would be, is there on corn with where we are today, is there more upside than downside today? I would say right now, yes, going into this growing season. At some point, there should be something to talk about. At some point, we should have something that should at least give us some opportunity. Is it going to go as high as you want it to go? Probably not. So I think you have to be realistic on your targets and where you want to sell. But no, I think you have to be an optimist. Why else would you do this? You got to be an optimist and try to look for some opportunity, but don't be too greedy. Before I came on, you guys were talking about selling something and where, is there profit to be made? And my comment would be, bulls and bears make money, hogs get slaughtered. So
right.
With that said, from the farming end and looking for targets, find a target you can live with and make sure you get things marketed on any kind of rally. There is a lot of corn out here. And unfortunately, a lot of it's out here in this Northwest Corn Belt because our yields were so good.
That's a great quote about the bulls and bears versus the hogs. And you know what? We got to keep it in mind no matter which market we're in. Gregg, Hanson Agri Commodities, how can people find you if they would like to talk to you?
Well, the easiest way is pick up the phone and give me a call, 507-338-6433. You can check out our website at hanson-ag.com, or you can go look at our Facebook page at Hanson Agri-Commodities.
We are so looking forward to seeing you next Friday for Market Uncovered. Up next, we'll have Dr. Emily Fox of the Ashley Veterinary Clinic join us. Listener question for her today, and that is, do cows have high blood pressure or cholesterol? We'll find out. It is a great day to catch up with all of our listener questions, and one of them has been, where do I find that cybersecurity guy for ag again? Oh, yeah, you can go to techsupport.farm. Chris Sherman is available and ready to talk with you. He has the fence check assessment right there on his website. And Tuesday at 11 a.m., that'll be February 10th, there will be a live webinar, free, and you can sit in and hear more about ways that you can protect yourself, your farm, and your business when it comes to cybersecurity, because you, my friends, are targets. We are having a great day of answering listener questions. And so one of our most requested guests is Dr. Emily Fox. She's with the Ashley Veterinary Clinic in Ashley, North Dakota. Okay, Emily, this was a great one. We have a listener who said, do cows have cholesterol and can they have high blood pressure? I had never thought about this. If there's high blood pressure, do we get cottage cheese easier? I mean, fill us in. What's going on?
So I really hadn't given this a ton of thought myself either. I know that, so I'm glad that you actually brought this question up before having me on, because I probably would have been a little confused. So I had to do a little reading and a little thinking. The vast majority of living things have cholesterol. That much I knew. So for example, like I think 80 or 90% of animals have cholesterol of some sort as part of their body. It makes up a lot of our cellular membranes. It's important in a lot of body functions. It's in cattle, it's found in their tissues, in their milk, in their blood. It can be found in a lot of different places, and it does do a lot of very important things within the body. So it is really important to be able to either make or synthesize cholesterol in some way, usually from plant sterols. Now, as to whether or not cows have cholesterol, considering the listener added the high blood pressure component, I think that they're kind of asking, do cows have cholesterol problems? So I have never seen a cow with cholesterol problems. You see cardiac problems sometimes, things like hardware disease. Sometimes you'll see secondary to a protein losing disease like Johne's disease, where the cow is getting really skinny. Sometimes you will see some cardiac abnormalities as well. So I certainly do see heart disease, but I don't necessarily see the heart disease that you see related to high cholesterol, which is a sclerosis or narrowing of the arteries. It is vaguely possible from what I read. But actually, there is a syndrome that I wasn't aware of because I don't usually work on dairy cows, of Holstein calves, where they actually have really low cholesterol. And as a result, because it's important to your intestinal lining, these animals actually end up losing a lot of their water from their intestines, and they end up with chronic diarrhea as well. So it actually is a life-altering condition for these animals. It's genetic. I guess they bred it out pretty well from what I understand, which is fairly limited. But there definitely can be high cholesterol. Now, meat from animals has cholesterol in it because these animals have cholesterol, right? So when we talk about like, oh, should you eat beef because of your cholesterol? I have high cholesterol genetically. So, you know, that's a conversation that I've had with my doctor, and certainly consuming animal proteins does lead to increase in cholesterol. I did read a little bit because I thought I might get asked the grass-fed versus grain-fed question regarding cholesterol.
Yeah,
It
sure.
sounds like there is some change in which cholesterols are affected. However, grain-fed beef has some other profiles that are better, and overall it's the total fat content that's the bigger issue. They used to think it was the HDL versus the LDL, which it still is to some extent, but just having that different profile in those, if the grass-fed beef were to be fattier, which it usually isn't, but if the two things are equal, one is not necessarily that much better than the other from what I read. And I'm not an expert on human nutrition. You'll have to find a different guest for that. But as to what I understand, you know, cholesterol is super important in milk. Certainly we do see cholesterol in milk. As to the blood pressure question, do we deal with high blood pressure, like chronic high blood pressure, as a problem itself secondary to cholesterol? No. But we see a lot of conditions that can change a cow's blood pressure, right? Things like hardware disease where her heart's not working right. Essentially, blood pressure is just kind of a part of the major equation of the heart. You know, you have blood volume and blood pressure, and you know, you're looking at your stroke volume and the total volume of blood in the animal, and then your blood pressure. That's how you decide how much oxygenated blood goes around the body of any animal. And so there are times when the blood pressure goes up for a variety of reasons. For example, if an animal's really stressed out, their blood pressure might be very high. You know, if I get a cow in to do a C-section this time of the year and she's really, really worked up before she comes into the chute, and I go to, you know, cut the skin and we get those little skin bleeders and suddenly they're just spurting. Sometimes that's because her blood pressure is really high because she's really stressed out. Obviously,
Hmm.
we do what we can to minimize stress, and that's why I do think stress is not only a mental condition, it is a physiologic symptom, and it's important as animal health professionals that we minimize stress because stress in itself is a disease causer. Um, the other thing about blood pressure is you can see low blood pressure. So if you have an animal in my business, right, where we might have an animal losing a lot of blood, let's say again this time of year, a uterine prolapse that's starting to hemorrhage, you will see that
Hmm.
their blood pressure will start to drop dramatically. That can be majorly problematic for a variety of reasons, and you need to do something to either increase their blood pressure or stop the bleeding, or preferably both. So sometimes, for example, we will staunch the bleeding and then we will give IV fluids to temporarily raise the blood volume and raise the blood pressure so that the animal maintains its oxygen carrying capacity and maintains circulating blood volume.
Emily, this sorry, Bridgette, this might sound like a
Yeah.
silly question, but concerning blood pressure and I mean, bovine, cows, they seem just so mellow, just kind of, moving slow out there. What would stress out a cow?
Oh.
Oh, you can come to work with me sometime. Um, so there's a lot of things that might stress out a cow. And certainly not all cows are mellow and hanging out there. I have lovely cows, and I'm not going to say anything bad about cows, but there's a lot of things that might stress out a cow. Having her baby taken away, being taken away from the other cows, they're herd animals, so they find that really stressful. Some cows, if you get the really mean one in the herd, sometimes you look at her funny and you stress her out a little bit.
Wow.
Being worked, being asked to go through a chute.
Yeah.
It just kind of depends. Cattle at a sale barn can sometimes be very stressed.
Okay.
And in general, anytime that we intervene with them, so for example, sometimes we're doing something important for their health, like we need to vaccinate the calves. It's incredibly important that when we do this, we do it in a low stress manner. If we try to get those cows out of the pasture or those calves out of the pasture and we drive around on our four wheelers really fast and we start hooting and hollering and making a real
Hmm.
ruckus and maybe get a bunch of hot shots out and go crazy, yeah, you can get those calves pretty worked up. They'll be trying to jump out of the corral, they can hurt themselves, or they'll just be so stressed out that there's some evidence that the vaccines may not work as well. So it's really important that we understand as a community of animal health professionals that low stress handling is of itself a very important health tool. You also see a lot of stress at weaning time. Sometimes calves will get very stressed at weaning. There are a lot of interventions that they've come up with to try to help with this. But there's a
Hmm.
lot of things that would definitely stress a cow out. A lot of the time, just being singled out. Let's say she's already sick and we have to single her out because we need to get her in and treat her. She's just saying, "Oh God, some predator wants to single me out and eat me." I mean, that's part of cows' nature, is to make sure that they don't get eaten by things. So anytime you try to corner an animal or get it by itself, their nature is definitely to be a little bit stressed, and so it's important to mitigate that.
As someone who's been chased up a set of freestalls and out a dairy barn window by a cow who was stressed out, yeah, they're not as docile as you think. It'll
Mm.
change. Um, Emily, we have one more question from a listener, and well,
Sure.
actually, I have about four, but we can get one more in, I bet. Is there a way to measure blood pressure in cows? I realize I've never seen a cuff that size to strap on an animal. So, how could we do it, or would we need to do it?
So that's an interesting question. I've never had to do it. That being said, there are a lot of these little monitoring devices that you can clip onto the tongue or maybe the base of the tail. Um, and I think that most of those devices probably would be able to return a blood pressure, kind of like, not like the blood pressure cuffs they use on humans, but kind of like some of the little finger devices that they use. The other thing that we could do to, you maybe could use a, no, I don't think that would work. Never mind. You might also be able to look at their intraocular pressure and get some idea. So I do have a device called a tonometer, which is a device that measures the pressure in the eye. While that doesn't always relate to the blood pressure, it usually correlates. So in order to just decide that she was high or not high, we might be able to take her IOP using that device and then be able to tell. I don't know that they make blood pressure cuffs that high, although theoretically, I suppose you might be able to get one of the big human ones around a leg, but I don't know that it would work as well, especially because you're so far distal on the limb. It's an interesting question, and
Okay.
I haven't really found a need to use it because I usually can evaluate other things like overall what their heart rates are doing, how much blood they've lost, those things, and then I can make assumptions about what I think their blood pressure is based on those physiologic characteristics.
As always, Emily, you are such a fantastic wealth of information. I really appreciate you answering these questions. I've got more as we start looking ahead to March. I'll be in touch. We'll find another day for you to join us. But in the meantime, how can people find you?
Sure. So we have a great Facebook page. We're at Ashley Veterinary Clinic on Facebook. And we're lucky enough to have somebody who's not me who works on our Facebook page and does a great job. We have some trivia on there sometimes and also some cool things about our clinic. So feel free to look us up.
Thanks so much, Emily. I hope you have a great Friday.
You too. Thanks for having me.
All right. When we come back, we're going to have a recap on the weather, which does have some warmer weather heading our way as we head into the weekend. More on that when we come back. And welcome back to Weather Nag in Focus on this finally Friday. Finally, the sun is coming out here in the FM area, and we'll see a pretty sunny rest of the afternoon. However, it is on the chilly side. Winds not as strong as they were earlier, but we're still looking at some breezy conditions out there this afternoon. Temperatures will remain steady in the teens and then slowly fall off into the upper single digits as we head after sunset, bottoming out overnight tonight, about 5 above. And then the weekend, looking a little better in terms of temperatures. We're looking at breezy south winds on Saturday with highs in the upper 20s and lighter winds out of the south on Sunday with temperatures in the 30s. It looks like mid to upper 30s on Sunday. So Sunday, the pick day, it looks like, of the weekend, and then we'll start off next week on a warm note and chance of a light wintry mix coming in late Monday through Monday night into early Tuesday. But again, that does not look like a major system by any stretch of the imagination. So pretty quiet weather, it looks like, continuing all the way through Valentine's Day weekend. And this weather is brought to you this afternoon by Progressive Ag Risk Management Specialists. So all in all, not a bad-looking weekend, Bridgette. I know a lot of people have Super Bowl plans. If you're doing any traveling to any Super Bowl parties, looks like it should be A-okay.
Well, I am pretty much the worst sports person most everybody's ever met. And for this weekend to involve the Olympics opening ceremonies, the Super Bowl, and the local town where I live has winter golf tomorrow, it's quite a sports weekend. I might even be paying attention to some of them, so you just never know. Now, Dr. Emily Fox did a great job of talking about cattle handling situations. And just to expand on that just a little bit, first of all, I'm no expert, right? I know most of the things that we should remember doing when we're around cattle. I can tell you that if you are looking to improve your cattle handling techniques, there's a number of ways to do that. One of them is through beef quality assurance training. In fact, there are a number of processors who will not accept beef animals unless the producer, the farmer or the rancher have been through that training. What does some of that include? Well, a number of things are based on the findings of Dr. Temple Grandin. If you've ever followed what she shares, you're going to learn that cattle like a low stress environment. Just like Dr. Fox mentioned, you don't walk into a pen or a pasture and start whooping and hollering like it's a rodeo. They'll get agitated. They're unfamiliar to you, and it'll likely turn out badly. They'll start charging you or running away, ripping through fences, whatever the case might be. Cattle also, especially in a confined space like holding pens, feedlots, they will move in circular patterns. So Dr. Grandin in particular noticed that because of that, when you wanted to move cattle from a pen to, say, a chute to vaccinate, brand, work on them, etc., don't have 90-degree corners and don't have straight lines. If you bring them through a circle, it doesn't have to be a complete circle, but almost like an S-curve where they don't see what's ahead of them. They think they're just making a loop and coming back to join the herd, but pretty soon they find themselves at the head chute and they just wander on in. They're like, oh, wow, look at this. I've arrived. So those types of things matter. Cattle don't like a lot of noise. So if you have chains that are bouncing where you're supposed to be latching together corral panels, if you have a lot of metal that's got sun reflecting off of it, that will distract and frighten them. And just like Emily said, calves being taken away for weaning, etc. Because if you have a calf who's 9 or 10 months old and weighs about half as much as you do, that calf needs to go. I mean, it's no different than your kids need to start eating solid food, right? There's a point where these things have to change. Also, even farm dogs, if you have an overly aggressive border collie, blue heeler, etc., who really gets into that herd and the cows are unfamiliar, and when I say cows, I also just mean cattle, cows and bulls, if they're unfamiliar with that dog, they're going to react badly to that animal because they think it should be a fight or flight situation. So there's a lot of things that go into handling with cows and bulls just to kind of keep them from getting too wound up. I think the same principles often apply to whether we're working with swine or sheep or any other herd animals as well. Chickens, good luck. Just try to catch them when you need them, and for the love of God, keep them off the kitchen counters. That's my advice.
Good advice.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just a lot that it comes to. when you go to a rodeo, there's a reason why everybody's wound up, and that's what you came to see. If you are trying to work cattle in a family operation at your ranch, you don't want to see animals that are all worked up. You'll see ranches that if horses are unfamiliar, the cows aren't really good with that, or if they're familiar with horses but they don't like four-wheelers and side-by-sides, they're not going to be comfortable. That's the times that blood pressure will in fact be on the rise, just like Dr. Fox mentioned.
Who knew?
So,
yeah. I mean, because your average Joe driving down the interstate, looking out into the field, seeing they're just mellow, kind of moving along, real slow. But yeah, there you go.
No, again, chased right up over the freestalls, out a barn window. It was not my best day on the farm.
well, that'll do it for Bridgette and myself here on Weather and Ag in Focus. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We'll catch you back on Monday, but don't go anywhere. The Jay Thomas Show, it's coming up next.